What we have here today is a Dell tablet. Now, usually I don't pick up things from Dell. Well, I shouldn't say that because I got the trash pick Dell computers, but I've never really picked up like Dell tablets before. Frankly, because one, there's none around here, and two, I'm not fond of them. Not fond of things by Dell. But it struck me at how good this thing really was for $18. I could not pass it up for that cheap. And you probably guess what this is by now. That's right. This tablet is not an Android. This, judging by the top button here, if I can get that in focus, you guessed it, is a Windows tablet. And for 18 bucks, I couldn't say no. Like, come on. Who doesn't want an 8-inch tablet running Windows? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of value that comes into a tablet like this. I mean, even when these things were new, they were a pretty darn good value for the money. So, for those who've never seen it before, like this particular tablet, this is a Dell Venue 8 Pro model 5830. That's the Venue 8 Pro 5830 that I'm talking about. This is the model. They came in several different variants. I think there's one that was even in red, although that might have been the Android one, not the Windows one. Although the Windows one was more expensive, The back here is actually this really grippy rubberized material that has like this sort of circular pattern that revolves around the Dell logo. And let me tell you, this is a grippy material. Like, this thing will grip your hands whatever the circumstances. Even if they're sweaty or greasy, it will hold your hands. It's ridiculously grippy. And the texture is actually quite nice. Nice texture. I rather like it. The rest of the tablet, at least the frame, is a nice soft touch plastic material. Feels very comfortable in the hands. There's no oleophobic coating on the screen, so obviously you get all the smudges in the world known to man. So let's go over the ports real quick. We have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, as well as a Windows button to get access to the start button, the start menu. On the right-hand side, we have a micro USB charging port, as well as a little status indicator to tell you when the battery's charging or charged or low or whatever have you. There's your sleep-wake power button, which turns on the tablet, which is upside down, ironically. Volume up and down, and a microphone. Down below, we have an SD card slot, which supports, I believe, up to 64 gigabyte cards. And I believe that these models might have also had an LTE option. It's not there on this one, obviously, but I think there might have been a provision for a SIM card to go there, like a micro SIM or something. On the bottom, we get a single speaker, and we also get the service tag or express service code sticker, which usually is shown up on all Dell products. You get a service tag to identify the machine that you have and get quick support from Dell themselves, which is kind of cool. And on the left, there's nothing. On the front, I believe that is a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. We'll verify that once we get into the operating system. And on the back, we have a 5 megapixel autofocus camera, which uses, I believe, an Intel imaging sensor to control the camera, which is a far cry from what was used in tablets like the Surface Pro 3. And I can't not get this thing to focus. There we go. There you can see 5 megapixel. So, this is the 32 gigabyte model, hence the 5830 name. I believe the 5840 was the 64 gig version, which I don't have here. This is the 5830. But still, nonetheless, though, you still get quite a bit for 32 gigs. So here we are. We are in Windows 10 version 1511, which was updated from Windows 8.1. This tablet originally came with Windows 8.1 from the factory. And shameless self-promotion to Dell 0304. Anyways, yeah, these things came with Windows 8.1 back when they were new. But thankfully they support Windows 10, fully supported. So you do get full driver support and everything from Dell. So if I go under System and About, even the Dell stuff transfers over, which is kind of nice. In terms of specs, it has an Intel Atom Bay Trail Z3740D, which is actually the better version of the Intel Atom because the Z3735 had a little bit less cache memory than the Z3740. That's pretty much the only thing that's different between the two is a bit more cache memory on the Z3740, if I remember correctly. This has 2 gigs of RAM, running the 32-bit Windows 10, even though the Intel Atom processor itself is 64-bit. I believe they have a newer model now, these Dell tablets that run Windows 10 out of the box, and they have 4 gigs of RAM in them. So they run the 64-bit Windows 10, which is great. And they have an improved Intel Atom CPU, I believe, if they don't use something like a Core M, which would be kind of overkill for a tablet like this, but, still possibilities there. This uses the Intel HD graphics chipset, which is integrated into the CPU, which is no surprise. Oops, don't open Edge. I'm pressing buttons here. But anyway, so it runs Windows 10 fairly smoothly. It actually runs really well. Despite the 2 gigabytes of RAM, it actually runs Windows 10 very well. And of course, you still do get access to the desktop. And of course, you can use Windows like a normal computer. You can tell I'm actually doing quite well with the 32 gigabyte SSD that's inside this. I'll actually show you guys the device manager here real quickly if I can get access to the title bar here. We'll just go to System Properties and open up the device manager. And this thing actually uses a, that's not what I wanted. This thing actually uses a Samsung SSD, which is kind of crazy. Now, it's not particularly the fastest SSD in the world, and it could just be the limitations of the CPU and RAM, but it's actually a nice SSD. I don't believe it's eMMC based, but if you guys want to look up the model number, you can. I'll certainly provide a caption for you guys, so if you want to do that, you can look at more information, but here's basically what it is. So I guess if it isn't an SSD, then it's an eMMC storage, but it certainly don't feel like eMMC. It certainly feels much faster than that. But either way, I leave it in tablet mode most of the time. It makes the most sense for a tablet of this size to use the tablet mode. So yeah, relatively speaking, this is a very nice tablet. And it looks like I have more games on here than I thought I did. We'll take a look at Candy Crush Soda Saga, which I didn't really install. It installed by itself, which it should not do. I never mentioned it to install. Who the hell wants to read 41 pages of end-user license agreement, terms of service stuff? Like, come on. Oh my god. So many pages. Anyways, no push notifications, please. As you can see, it's running it pretty well. Loading times, I guess, could be better. I don't know if it's trying to pull up the Xbox stuff. It might very well be. Or it just crashes. Common problem with Windows 10. I know that very well. There's another application on here. It's called Wallpaper Studio. And one weird quirk about it is that if you don't refresh it and you, say, tap on a picture to load it up, it'll just sit here with the loading symbol and then eventually just crashes, as you'll soon see. It also could be dependent on the speed of my internet connection. That also could be because I'm out of internet data. And yeah, the internet's like the world's slowest Wi-Fi known to man imaginable. Before the world of dial-up, this was this kind of internet, and despite the fact it wasn't wireless, this is what you got in terms of bandwidth speed. That's what it feels like. It's ridiculously slow. Although sometimes you do get lucky and it does load, but most of the time it ends up just crashing anytime you want to look at something before you get a chance to even download it, which is kind of weird, but YOLO. It's that sort of thing. Now it just doesn't want to load, as you can clearly see. Again, this app is mostly dependent on my internet connection, and my internet connection is totally shot right now. So, yeah, go figure. So I won't bother. There's not really much else to talk about in terms of this tablet. I mean, there's really not much else to say. I guess we'll take a look at the camera real quick before we close out the video. And let me tell you, actually, this was a bitch to get working, the camera. Oh my god, did it take forever to get working. And the reason why, I don't know why, but apparently Dell majorly fucked up on the camera driver on these things. And people were constantly getting blue screens because their camera wouldn't initialize, and it would just take the whole system down on its knees and just crash, which is kind of weird, but Intel never really made proper drivers for this thing for Windows 8.1, so the best solution was to just reinstall the Intel Atom chipset driver, which fixed the camera. Because let me tell you, it was a bitch trying to get that thing to work, because I would have to go back to a Windows 8.1 driver in Windows 10, and you know, it was so bad, like it was ridiculous. And another thing, I was having an issue with the display not like coming back on after I put the tablet to sleep. Like I would turn the tablet on, and you know, it would come on, you would unlock it, you know, here you are on the start screen. Then you go to turn the screen off, and then you go to turn it back on, and the screen would be blank, and you'd have to force the power off. This time I actually updated the driver to the latest version, and it actually works just fine. So thank God. And it fixed the automatic brightness, which is great, because now the automatic brightness works as it should, which is awesome. So generally speaking, it looks like with Windows 10, they've managed to fix most of the hardware bugs with this tablet, which is great. And for 18 bucks, I sure as hell can't complain. It's a really solid tablet. I think Windows is really the most underestimated platform. I believe, still today, I believe Windows Phone and the soon-to-be replacing it, Windows Mobile, Windows 10 Mobile, I believe is the third most popular mobile platform. You know, obviously second to iOS, and then thirdly to Android. But relatively speaking, I think Windows is a hugely underestimated platform by a lot of developers and a lot of consumers. I think Windows 10 has a lot going for it, especially the user interface, which is extremely customizable, especially here on full Windows 10. You can install whatever you want. You can customize the background, your tiles, what shows live tiles. Even though you do get the Action Center, you do end up getting the live tiles. And I really think that the mishmash between the desktop and the full tablet interface with Windows 10 is one of the most brilliant ideas I've ever seen. And I really think that if Microsoft keeps it up and they market it correctly and try to get people onto the Windows 10 bandwagon, besides, you know, PC manufacturers, especially in the Windows 10 mobile interface, because they're seeming to still lose money on that somehow. I don't know why, but I think the main reason is because there's nobody making Windows 10 mobile devices yet, or pushing Windows 10 mobile software updates, because of the fact that Windows 10 mobile is not officially released, which makes sense in a way. So when Windows 10 mobile finally hits the streets and finally starts getting pushed onto more and more devices, I think the revenue is going to go back up. But regardless, I still think that Windows is still one of the most underestimated platforms out there, and I really think that Windows deserves a lot more attention than what it's been getting recently. And I really do think that Microsoft has put so much hard work into Windows 10 to make it what it is, that, you know, even though it is still buggier than fuck, which I will admit, especially in its early days, I still do think that the interface they pulled off is miles better than Windows 7, and it definitely takes the cake over Windows 8.1 any day of the week. And I really do think that the concept they pulled off during pre-release, and the concept that Satya Nadella, or whoever designed Windows 10 came up with, or whoever, you know, planned it, did a fantastic job at designing it. Now, in terms of it functioning, though, it's another story, like I mentioned, but I still think that with due time, I think Windows will be a more recognizable platform for tablets and mobile phones than it is computers, because obviously Windows is a more popular platform on computers than it is phones. Ironically, the Surface line taking over the Lumia line, which is kind of, you know, fiddly, but, you know, I still do think that Microsoft should make more Lumia hardware that's more focused on like budget line. You know, yeah, they have their flagships like the 950 and the 950 XL, but I still do think that they should do more towards like making mid-rangers and budget lines. Like, you know, they made the, what was it? I can't remember the model number, but like my friend has the Lumia 635, which is an absolutely great value for the money. Like, you know, you get a quad-core processor, an LTE, you know, despite the fact you don't have a front-facing camera, for like $50. Like, Microsoft did, no, Nokia, technically Microsoft, but Nokia branded, did a real nice job with the value hardware in that thing. You know, I'm just rambling, but I thought I would talk about that because I still feel like there's a lot of people that judge Microsoft based on their software, not on their hardware, because their hardware is actually really good. I don't know. I'm just saying figurative stuff, so don't take me literally. But either way, I still think that Windows is really a really unrecognized platform that really needs to deserve more attention by everybody. And I thought about this. I was curious to see if maybe I could try and find a way to program applications for the Windows Store to try out on this. Nothing I'd, you know, really publish, but just something to try, like to sideload something, you know, create in like, I don't know, Azure or something. I don't know. That'll come for another day. So until then, guys, until I figure out what else I'm going to do with this tablet or any other video, here is the Dell Venue 8 Pro. Thank you guys so much for watching. I shall see you guys later. Peace out, I guess.